She has served as the Executive Director of Peoples Against Hazardous Landfill Sites for 12 years. In addition, she worked for the Calumet Park Cemetery. In 2002, she was elected to serve a term on the Portage Township Advisory Board and was re-elected in 2006. She was elected to the Portage City Council in 2007 and re-elected in 2011 and 2015. She did many, many, many things while she was on the council. I won't even go into it. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, our new Portage Mayor, Sue Lynch.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. Can you hear me okay? I'm short, so this doesn't get down there far enough. I can guarantee you one thing, it's longer than 30 seconds. So you're not going to hear the horn beeping after 30 seconds. Good afternoon, everybody, and I want to thank Nancy and the Chamber for this event today and for inviting me here. It's an important step in further building great relationships with the city of Portage, these many organizations and businesses in our community have chosen to make Portage their home, and for that we are so grateful. Next, I want to welcome and thank the elected officials and dignitaries who have taken time from their busy schedules to come here today, especially our 4 new city council members who have stepped into kind of a hornet's nest. They're in a learning curve. So I would like to introduce them. We have Ferdinand Alvarez, Brian Gully, Gina Geishurst, and Deb Podgorski. These are our new members. They've gone to boot camp and they have been working overtime on your behalf. We also have 3 returning council members, Pat Clem, Colin Zilli, and our council president this year is Scott Williams. When I took oath as the office of mayor in the city, I promised you that our team would be committed to being fiscally responsible, which has been and will continue to be our #1 priority in this city. We are returning a sense of stability, trust, and ethical government to you, our residents, businesses, and taxpayers. We will stay focused and diligent on the task that lies before us. I want to introduce a few members of my team that are here today because we have an awesome team. I am so proud of our administration. They are such a great group of people who are working for you. First off, I want to introduce my executive assistant, Norma LeBoy. Poor Norma. She never leaves until I do, which is usually after 6 o'clock at night. And our city attorney, Dan Witten. Dan is a longtime friend of mine, but I want to say a couple of things about Dan. We got a twofer when we got Dan. Dan has been on the county council for many years, has served as their president, and has been deeply involved in their budget, which is about $200 million, a little more than ours. So he's very budget aware and very helpful to us in understanding issues that we're having with our budget right now. I'd also like to introduce our department heads, our police chief, Mike Candiano, and our assistant chief, Ted Uzelak. I love you guys, you're so great. And our fire chief, Tim Sosby, and assistant chief, Kevin DeYoung. I see Dan Kodachek is here today. Thanks for coming out today. Our street department superintendent, Randy Reeder. And we have a new assistant superintendent, street department, Darren Godby. Welcome, Darren. We have our park superintendent, Lori Wilkie. Thanks for your staff putting all these tables up and doing all this work for us today, Lori. I know it was a lot of work. We have Director of Community Affairs, a person that's back in our city again after a little bit of a hiatus, an awesome person, AJ Monroe. AJ knows the ups and downs and ins and outs of this city. We are so honored to have him back, and he has been working really hard for us. Our sanitary plant superintendent, Don Slonikowski, is here today, and Tracy Marshall, his right arm over there. Thanks, Tracy, for coming. We have our Field Forces Superintendent, Dave Littleton. I think he's out in the field today, and the Assistant Superintendent, Dan Commenda, but they're out clearing drains and doing what they need to be doing. And our Portage Marina Director, Barb Lesko. So now you know who this great team is. I look forward to the day when we will have the freedom in our city to make the decisions not based on whether we have the money and the dollars needed to do a project that we choose to do, but by having the liberty to decide if it is a worthy project and one that our city wants to take on. We don't have that right now. There's no doubt we have reason to be concerned. Financially, we have enormous problems, and we will absolutely have no wiggle room in this year's budget, and we may not have any in next year's budget. In August of 2018, a report by Standard & Poor's stated that they lowered our rating from an A+ to an A. When you lower the rating, this isn't good. It's difficult to manage your finances, and people start looking at you under the spyglass. Well, some portions of the report showed that we were strong. There were others that reported that we were weak management and vulnerable financial policies and practices. During a recent meeting with the State Board of Accounts last fall, we were cited for many inefficiencies, and we were cautioned, truly cautioned, about continuing down the path of taking on the debt that we have been taking on. I can assure you, we are watching our bottom line figures. We are not taking on any major projects other than the ones that we know that we have secured funding for. We are planning carefully a little further out. We will improve our bottom line by year's end, I promise you, but it's going to take a lot of fiscal restraint. Our city budget is around $33 million for this fiscal year. And that may sound like a lot of money, but it really isn't for a city our size, especially when you consider that about 82% of that is used for employee wages, benefits, and insurance. Our insurance alone this year is nearly $6 million. After that, there are all the normal operating expenses that any business incurs. Landfill fees, $700,000 a year and rising. New vehicle purchases for our police, fire, and our city departments. Insurances and other projects that need to be happening in the city, but we just simply don't have the money for. State law requires us to submit a balanced budget each year to the Department of Local Government Finance, who then approves our budget. Or in some cases, like this year, they tell us that our income does not match what we predicted our expenses would be. So simply put, we submitted a 2020 budget that we did not have enough money to pay for with the expenses that we expect to incur. Now, as a business community, I know that each of you understands that completely. You can't do good business if there's a discrepancy between what you plan to spend and what you actually have. For Portage, the end result was the state cut our budget by $2.2 million from our general fund and almost $450,000 from our motor vehicle highway fund. And when this happens, and it does, it happens with other cities and towns as well, but then we're forced to make necessary cuts and changes in various line items to reflect what they are cutting, which is very challenging, especially for our department heads who previously had really cut their budgets down to the bare bones in the beginning. For several years now, we have ended the year by carrying over the city's debt into the new year. The debt we are continually carrying over takes real money away from our budgets and any plans that we would have for the following year. And this is how cities and towns end up with less money for needed projects. And that's one of the ways we've gotten ourselves into the financial troubles we are currently facing. This year is estimated we will carry nearly $4 million of debt from 2019. At the end of January of this year, we borrowed over $10 million from the Indiana Bond Bank to pay bills. It's not abnormal for cities to borrow tax anticipation dollars early in the year, but this is a substantial amount of money, and it has to be paid back by December 31st. We have a serious cash flow problem in our city, and we are working with people to help us do a cash flow analysis. Our clerk treasurer, Nina Rivas, over here, and our council president, we have been in lockstep with one another. Nina has a little disaster in her department. She has huge debt that she's trying to deal with. She has equipment that doesn't help them print out reports that they need to know and understand of where we're at. I'll get into that in a little bit, but Nina, really kudos to you, Nina, because you really have a huge amount of things to challenge you this year. Additionally, we can't take on what I call pop-up projects. These are projects that funds were not allocated for in our budget, and whether they sound like a good idea or not, we cannot take on pop-up projects because they force us to cut another project that we thought was necessary when we put it in the budget. So something that the previous plan was for is now not going to happen. And there's a couple of projects that I would really like to see happen in our city. We can't do them right now, so we're going to have to hold off on them. A perfect example of pop-up projects are paving projects. Well, many of our streets desperately need paving, they need curbing, they need sidewalks. We only have so many dollars in our budget allocated to that. So we can't decide that we just want to add a paving project just because. And then we have to try to figure out where the money will come to pay for that. We have to stop doing that. Again, our goal is to prepare realistic budgets based on the most worthy projects and the ones that we will actually have the dollars to pay for. A simple 2-inch paving for 1 mile of road is about $300,000, and that doesn't count curbing, it doesn't count sidewalks. But in the case of many of our streets in the city, we need to remove the bad asphalt and replace the base with stone or soil, which would then cost about $930,000 for that same mile of road. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but our wheel tax is about $950,000 a year. So when you look at it that way, it's 1 mile of road, when we have many, many miles of road in the city that need to be paved. We've already begun to get control of our debt overload, and we are learning to live within our means in every single department in this city. Our department heads are fully aware of our financial situation, and they're doing everything they can to help us out. They're getting grants, they're looking at outside money, they're doing whatever they can to help out. Even if this means getting additional training for our department heads and us in the administration to help better manage our budget and to learn to make cuts where it's necessary. We have an excellent auditor in the county, Vicki Urbanik. She's assisting Nina and helping her out. And we are working with a consulting firm who is working with many other cities and towns and is helping us as we struggle through this financial crisis. So one of the major expenses that we are working to reduce is our IT costs. And I know everybody in this room that's in business knows that IT is very expensive. Our IT costs, and we don't have an exact number, but I can tell you they're over $600,000 a year. The clerk treasurer and the city council, myself, we are working to reduce redundancies in our budget. We're finding like multiple accounts for one thing. So we're learning to cut the redundancies to help save money, and we're looking at overcharges and things that we feel that we're being charged too much money for. So we're really scrutinizing this budget. I think we work on it every single day of our lives to save unnecessary expenses, and there are many, many. Our Board of Works just recently approved a contract to switch to a software program called Laserfish. I don't know if any of you knows what that is. It's a great program, and we're currently in the process of having that installed now. And I know if you've undergone computer conversions, and my bosses, my previous bosses that are sitting over there looking at me, we know, we went through them. They're a nightmare. When you tell me computer conversions, I just want to leave. It's a painstaking process, and it takes months to complete, especially when you're working with a disjointed system like Nina's working with. I mean, the people that are working on the computer system down in Nina's office, they said it's a crazy mess. It's a nightmare. This new software is going to allow us to accomplish things that were previously not possible at all. But what else it's going to do is it will provide safeguards for protecting the vital information that is in the clerk treasurer's office. Right now, all of that is not secure. It's not under a secure system, and that's a risk of losing data. It's going to mean easier navigation for many of the programs that we're currently using and the new programs, better security systems, and it's going to allow for more transparency for our citizens to be able to get on there and access our website. It's going to take a little bit of time, so bear with us because we're just now getting it installed. Speaking of the Board of Works, which is the body that oversees all of our contracts, they review all the claims. They're the people who decide if a check is going to get written or not. I'm proud to say that we have a highly motivated, very focused Board of Works that includes Dr. Shauna Finley. Dr. Finley, are you still here today? Dr. Finley's on the Portage Township School Board. She's a member of the school board, and she is a former principal at the School City of East Chicago and has a PhD in educational leadership. Our City Council President, Scott Williams, who's an expert on budgets and financial responsibility, especially since the last few months he's been working on them so hard, and who's also the owner of his own company that teaches small business courses. I believe for Portage, this is the first time a city council member has been on the Board of Works, which only makes sense to me that you would have someone that approved your budget in the first place, making sure that you're staying in line with all the line items. Scott is a wonderful asset to us. We are also fortunate to have the expertise of financial planner and advisor from Edward Jones Company, Jamie Lewis. I didn't see Jamie, I don't know if he's here today, but he's a great asset. And previous council member, Steve Sanity, who understands the whole ins and outs of the council and the budgets because he was on the council with me when I first came on and who has spent many years in business sales. I'm proud to say that our new Board of Works is fully engaged, they're focused on details, and they are totally aware of how serious our financial situation is. And they know that it's important that they do the job that we have asked of them. One thing I want to make very clear, they are not a rubber stamp for me as the mayor. As you can clearly see for yourself, as each meeting is live streamed and archived on the City of Portage website and on YouTube. So watch what our Board of Works is doing because they really are doing a great job for you. They're not just getting things out there and saying yes to them. This is about the transparency and accountability I campaigned on. And that transparency and accountability will be what this administration is always about. There will always be people who are locked in the past and don't want to see our city move forward. They have their own interests and their own agendas. We will move forward, and we will remain focused and transparent and accountable to you, our business community, and our taxpayers. Speaking of departments, I'm happy again, and I just can't say it enough, that AJ's back on. He's a tremendous help to me in all the projects that we've taken on, sitting down and spending countless hours explaining these projects to me and meeting with all of these different entities that we meet with. And welcome back, AJ. We're glad to have you. For too long, we have had decision makers who choose divisiveness over collaboration with others. I just want you to know those days are over. Since taking office, I have had multiple meetings with Dr. Alanez, our superintendent of Portage Schools, about a variety of things that I believe that we could partner on and save the city and the schools money and help our children even more than we are now. Our children need us. I'm excited to tell you that our police chief, Mike Candiano, I will forever call you Captain Candiano, the county sheriff's department and the Portage Township school system have made great strides toward healing a relationship that had become broken, strained, and difficult in past years. That collaboration means Portage police officers are now back in our Portage schools, connecting with our children, and working as resource officers. And what this tells you is that we are working hard on building and rebuilding relationships with key players throughout our community and our county. Portage Township trustee Brendan Clancy, Dr. Alanez, and I recently met to discover even more opportunities for partnerships with the groups that we represent. This was a highly productive meeting, and we are looking forward to many more meetings together to work as a community, not just 3 individual entities. We've begun building and rebuilding relationships with people outside of our city limits as well. I've had meetings with the NICD board in regards to the South Shore double tracking project, and hopefully that will be taking place soon. On Tuesday of this week, AJ and I met with them again to review some details on their parking lot proposal. We know the double tracking project will mean future development on the north side of our city, something that has long been discussed and is really needed, and it's now going to come to fruition. I've met and had several conversations with Superintendent Leibowitz at the National Lakeshore regarding the beach erosion taking place at Lakefront and Riverwalk. And we were horrified last year at the number of chemical assaults on our beautiful Lake Michigan and our waterways. I've already had several meetings with the U.S. Steel Director of Government Affairs, Paul Vircher, and with the new General Manager of U.S. Steel's Midwest Division, Dan Killeen. I have met with the Port of Burns Harbor Director, Ian Hurt. Our port is a vital asset to us, and I know that a lot of you don't even know what it's like over there because you don't go over there. And so because of that, I want our council to be educated about the port. I think it's important. So we are lining up a tour with our council to go out to the port, meet with Director Hurt, and talk about what the port means to the city of Portage. That's a relationship over the years that's kind of fallen apart, and I think it's really important that we rebuild that relationship. So our city is once again represented at the table with NERPC. I am a new commissioner on the NERPC board. NERPC is a high-powered group of leaders in our community. They're headquartered right here in Portage. They're organized, they're focused on planning, advocating, and promoting Porter, Lake, and LaPorte counties. Our voice has been silent on that NERPC board. We need to be there. We need to be participating. There's a lot of opportunity for Portage that we've been missing out on. So Portage, we have been working with the beach erosion issue, and we just got a little piece of information. Mike was telling me about it. It just came across. Governor Holcomb apparently today has done a flyover of the beach, and he has signed an executive order that could lead to a disaster declaration. This is really early. Very wonderful information. I know that I signed an emergency order, our council did, and all the towns and cities around us. And we have been begging Governor Holcomb to come up here. So I am so excited to know that he's done this flyover today, and he has seen what a disaster this is. So we pray that this declaration reaches the federal government and they give us some assistance here really soon. Lastly, and I know Mike talked about it a little bit, the census. I can't tell you how much important that is for us to get our census filled out. In the year 2000, we had about 82% success rate. I would like to see it higher than that, but in 2010, we dropped under 80%, and that just can't happen. It's important for every man, woman, and child, and yes, children, have to be in this census, or we lose thousands of dollars. From the estimates that I'm seeing, they're saying the federal government is going to have about $675 billion in census money to allocate. We need that for our schools. We need that for our city and our departments. We need that for our libraries. There's so many things that census money goes to, and so we need you to help us. We need you to talk to your friends and your coworkers anybody that you know and tell them to fill those census forms out. There's going to be more coming out. April 1st is Census Day, and you can go online and fill out your census. There's a multitude of ways, but again, Mike is working with the Portage Census Complete Committee. He's working with Dr. Alanis in the Portage schools, the chamber, and so we're going to work hard to get that count up there again for us because it's really important. So just remember, you can help with the census. There's so much more I could say today, and I mean, I could just go on. I say I'm going to talk 10 minutes, and then I get excited about our city. I want you to take away from today that we are secure. You be secure in the fact that we are working hard, we're working together, and we are totally committed to getting things done here in our city. I don't want to be all gloom and doom here today, because my message to you today is Portage is a great city. It's made up of great people. We're on the move, and we're doing things the way you, our citizens, the faith community, and the business community and taxpayers expect us to do them. Going forward, I believe we have great potential here in Portage. We're one of the fastest growing cities in Indiana. I certainly don't want to minimize the good things that have happened in the past. I really don't. We have a new fire station, we have Founders Square, Hannah's Hope Playground, and I know it's not a new building, I wish it was, but the retrofitting of the current police station to a larger, safer, and more usable facility for our men and women in blue was really an important thing. No doubt the past several years have been tough ones for our city, and they have. But as a person who is positive, who believes in always looking forward, I never look backward. You can't change backward. I will not focus on or criticize those who have been here before me. I don't believe that's productive. It's not productive to dwell on the people who are only interested in being critical in our administration and not helping our city move forward. We have had some heavy clouds over our head in the past, and some days it truly did seem like major downpours, but we are moving beyond those storms, and I believe we are becoming stronger every single day as a city, and we are more determined because of it. Our city represents the kindest, most hard-working people you will ever find, and they have high demands for us as your team, and we are going to live up to that. We're up to the task you placed before us. We're here to represent each and every person and business in this city in a professional, ethical, and honest way. We know the responsibility is great, but it is also challenging and exciting. We have a great team doing great things for our city, and we are committed to fixing our city one day at a time. We're healing our community. We're focusing on efforts at better decision-making and being more responsible, building new relationships with each other and our neighbors around us. We thank you. We ask you for your support, your patience, and your understanding during this rebuilding time. Thank you for coming out today. May God bless you, and may God bless Portage, Indiana.